That's right, people. It's Beer and Ball. It's Bill and Aaron. It's 97.3 The Game and She Said TV. Doing it again after yet another loss, Bill. Don't know about you, but hey, at least the Packers are coming up with new and fun and interesting ways to be embarrassed on national television.
Yeah, it sure makes my job a lot easier. I mean, at least it gives us something different to do after the games on Packers OT. Yeah, 363 is nothing that I anticipated being able to see. That's a different style of whooping that they have not caught on national television in a long time. It's also, though, Nags, to the point, it's a different style because it's not one that they've done to somebody else, right? Like a lot of these last couple of losses you felt, say, okay, done that to some people for quite some time.
We've seen
not this one. This one's a little bit different.
What's so frustrating is the sense that they had 10 days to prepare for this game. 10 long days. And it's not like the Eagles had been whooping people coming into this game. It's not like the Eagles had been setting the world on fire where some juggernaut that you thought, oh boy, the Packers will be lucky just to keep pace. Like they had struggled against the Colts. The Colts, who we saw last night, are just not a very good football team.
Nope.
They got beat by the Commanders in their own house. You know, this was a team that was not firing on all cylinders. The Packers had 10 days to prepare and apparently never thought, hey, maybe the quarterback might run the football.
Wow. And the way that he did too, like, because people had wanted to see more man coverage and then to be beaten systematically in the first 15 minutes with it.
Right.
So, okay, they actually are going to play a lot of man coverage. So then we're just going to let Jalen have one rush lane to escape from. And the chunk plays, Nags, a lot of teams don't get 3 20-yard runs in a 4-game stretch. They got 4, I think, in the first quarter.
I mean,
there's
it's just the man coverage. The man coverage was one thing, but also throw into the mix that throughout the game, Joe Barry just steadfastly refused to commit numbers. They kept running 2 down linemen, their 2 outside backers, and then they'd have mostly a lone inside backer, sometimes pairing another one there, like McDuffie coming in alongside Quay Walker. But all that did was allow the interior linemen to get up to the second level and erase those guys. And I mean, if I'm the Eagles, just keep handing the ball off because it's not like the Packers ever seriously tried to counter what they were doing.
No, and that was the easiest night Miles Sanders has had all year for the Eagles, because he generally is facing a lot heavier pressure once he breaks the line of scrimmage inside the tackles, and Jalen's going to have to, I think he called it get freaky when he was coming out in the draft process of being able to get loose outside, and it was really light. And in pass rush, I thought Jaron Reed played very, very well.
You got after it a little bit.
You can't talk about it very much. Dean Lowry was, again, a ghost at that part of it. But that's also one of the best offensive lines in football, if not the.
No doubt.
And I think it was because as this game unfolded, right, it's a one-score game for a majority of the time, unlike Buffalo, where you could realistically see in the second half, there's not much of a game here. There was a game there all the way through.
That's a winnable football game.
But it was it was a game where you realize that there are tiers right now in the NFL. You can start kind of tearing off where you're at.
Oh, yeah.
And you're a step or two below what that team's worst game was and what their best game is. You're a few notches away from right now.
Yeah, there's no question. And like to your point about the Eagles offensive line, they are excellent. There's no question about it. It is baffling to me when you look at the way they wanted to stick with their kind of base nickel, right, and have those 2 guys up front. The 2 guys in question, whether it was Kenny Clark and Dean Lowry, whether it was TJ Slayton and Jaron Reed, whoever they were throwing out there, just could not get off a block to save their life. I think TJ Slayton, among all of the guys, probably played the best.
Yeah.
But that's a low bar. And the disappearance of Kenny Clark is just baffling because, like, yes, you're going to get double teamed at times and you're going to be put in positions where you're not going to, you've got to be counting on your teammates and you're absorbing stuff. And I understand that. But Kenny had a number of opportunities one-on-one with guys where he either just doesn't win or on the rare occasion he does get off a block, he can't make a tackle. That to me is concerning because this is a big money guy, a guy who has kind of disappeared here in the stretch of the last month or so. And in that game in particular on Sunday night in Philadelphia, he was an absolute non-entity. And that can't happen for this defense.
And you mentioned TJ Slayton, that the difficulties with that being one of the best performances, one of the better performances of the entire defense. And you start looking at their cap hits, Nags, the biggest money cap hits are on the defensive side, and they were kind of the ones that were the biggest disappointments. I love Adrian Amos. I think he's a great dude. I think he's a great leader. He looks to have now taken, when it was a 4-year deal, a step back, and what they kind of anticipated they were going to move off of at some point, right? Yeah. But you play well an extra year, you get an extra year, and I think they're paying for some of those. And Alexander on the outside, I know there's a lot of frustrated people for some reason. They've got their arrows up for Jair, and he gives them some reason to it. But more on the other side is you lock into a guy that you pick up on the practice squad last year, Rasul Douglas, and that ends up being more of the disappointment in the secondary, let alone don't want to harp on Darnell Savage. He's caught enough bullets this year. Exits after 2 plays. I'm not going to harp that one in here. But Devondre Campbell was not out there too, and I wonder if that has something to do with the personnel packages. If maybe he's there, maybe we see a little bit more base, but it is one to look at going into the offseason here, Nags, of this is the defense that was paid for. It's going to be paid for mostly for next year too, and those guys that are already paid are the ones that we have the biggest questions about right now.
Well, that's the thing. All the dudes who you were counting on, right? Coming into a season where you thought you had a pretty damn good nucleus, and whether it's Kenny Clark, whether it is Adrian Amos, whether it is even Jair at times, they have certainly almost to a man taken a step back. They certainly have not improved as the year goes on. They've certainly gotten worse. And to Matt's point yesterday in his press conference, you look at the missed tackles in this game. You can talk about Joe Barry, and we will in a bit, but you know, if you are in a position to get a guy on the ground and you repeatedly don't, I mean, that's on the players. There's no two ways about it. So as frustrating as it is to see a lack of maybe kind of all out changes during the game, adjustments, if you will, the guys got to make plays. Guys got to absolutely do a better job when it comes to sealing the deal, being in position. And they time and again, guys just let ball carriers either go through their arms, or even worse, we saw the return of throw yourself at the ball carrier's feet or throw a chicken shoulder into a dude, and
forearm.
And that was about the extent of the effort. I mean, that speaks to effort, and it was definitely lacking on Sunday night. And again, that's concerning. That's the signs of a team that's shutting it down.
Yeah, big time. And that's the independent contractor stuff that you kind of hear rumored about with the former players. And it's there's 5 games left, and maybe the bye rectifies some of that. Maybe a win against Chicago kind of eases a little bit of that, but there were some business decisions being made at certain points, and there will be. You understand that when you're not playing for the championship, there's going to be, but you got to make sure from a holistic standpoint that you get a good look here in these last 5 games. These games aren't meaningless right now. We talk about it with one player, and I know we'll talk about Jordan in a second, that like these next 5 games are so impactful for him, impactful for a lot of dudes' security going into next year.
No doubt about it. No doubt.
A lot of decisions coming down these next couple of weeks.
Were you surprised at Matt's, I don't want to say insistence, but kind of real pushback on the question of whether he considered changing play callers and or defensive coordinators? I mean, I appreciate Matt's, I guess, loyalty, for lack of a better word.
Put it. Yep.
And his, saying we're all in this sucker together. But man, it does feel like that has gotten him into trouble already once this season, sticking with Amari Rodgers as long as he did. And now he's going to stick with Joe Barry, which I never, ever would expect Matt to make a move in the season. I just don't think that's going to happen. But we saw last year when he stuck with Mo Drayton, and that certainly cost them in the playoffs. Now, there's probably not going to be a playoff game for them to have the cost this season, but sure speaks to a pattern that could potentially be. I'm not saying it's going to be his, his downfall, but certainly seems to be trending towards this is something that Matt does that maybe gets him in trouble.
His personal accountability, which I admire, a lot of people have already grown to resent, right?
Right.
Like when he says, it starts with me, it starts with me.
Right.
I respect the hell out of that. People hate hearing it
Yeah.
because it's the same thing. It's kind of a
Well, because
cliche.
the
It's a
same
cliche.
issues, the same issues keep popping up, and you
Yep.
keep saying, "Okay, it starts with me."
The
Well,
same
then
thing.
when are you going to start?
Then when are you going to start changing it? And his insistence on I can change some of it myself before we change the personnel. That's kind of where I come down on some of the fact that he doesn't want to or the hesitance to.
Right.
The other part of it, Nags, you and I kind of touched on it briefly. This hire of Barry was pretty impactful again for him around the league. Like you're giving another dude a third chance at being a defensive coordinator who hasn't had a whole lot of success. It's your second guy. And if you go to 3 defensive coordinators in 5 years, there's already going to be the thought of whose fault ultimately does this come down to?
Why do I want to
how,
go to Green Bay if I'm a young
what
coach?
kind of
Why
candidates
do
are
I
you
want to go to
getting?
Green Bay and be potentially thrown under the bus? Like you say, 3
time and time
coordinators in
again.
5 years.
Yep.
That's not a great rep to have. It's dangerous.
And especially for a team, Nags, that let's call it what it probably is going to be, is a team that's going to be rebuilding here pretty soon. So like that brings in a certain kind of candidate. So I think that's some of the hesitance is because of what probably comes in 2 months. Like they kind of fire him harshly in the middle of the season, throw him under. I don't know how good that deems in league circles. It's very justifiable. Don't get me wrong, but I think there's a lot of the other parts and the other factors playing in here behind closed doors for Matt that's giving him some hesitancy and some pause because there was a lot kind of riding on this one.
Yeah, and my thing is, like the question got asked yesterday, and I was like, well, of course the question is going to get asked after that performance. I understand why that question is posed to LaFleur. But I keep coming back to the fact of, okay, let's say you do fire Barry, right? What changes? I mean,
Nothing.
Okay, does Jerry Gray start calling the plays maybe? Sure. It's not like Jerry Gray's charges have been lights out this year. It's not like anybody has covered themselves in glory as far as your assistant coaches, whether it's Jerry Montgomery's crew. It's not like the defensive line has been lights out. I mean, there's been some flashes, sure, but, you can go down the line.
And then you're working a man down. Like that's the other part of firing somebody that always gets lost. Now I know they brought in Pleasant, and maybe there were some thoughts of, oh, that's why, because now they're going to put Jerry Gray in defensive coordinator. You're working a man down, and it's already hard enough.
Right.
So I think that's part of we're in this sucker together. Hey man, we built this ship. We're gonna all go down with it together here in the next 5 games, and then come into 2023, start fresh, which is a tough thing to think of.
No doubt. Let's flip over to the offensive side of the ball. You mentioned him, Jordan Love, getting a little shine there on Sunday Night Football, eerily similar to Aaron Rodgers coming in for Brett Favre on that Thursday nighter down in Dallas years ago. It was the first thing I thought. Like, this is just too perfect. Like, the symmetry is
crazy,
right there.
Dude.
Now, it's different scenario situations. I get it. A lot of that is different. But, man, the parallel of this is his first real kind of shine as far as he comes in and looks good doing it in relief of, an injured starter. And he got them within a score, much like Aaron did back in that Dallas game. Like it kept them in it.
Yeah.
It was great to watch Jordan rip it, man. It was just great to watch him operate the offense. And I thought he looked pretty damn good doing it.
He got better like he did seemingly during training camp, like week in, week out. We kind of talked, there was like a little incremental step. Looked like there was a bigger step because we haven't seen him in a while. Right. And I don't think, Nags, you can't say they're not corollary to the fact that he's getting all these reps in practice as the first teamer, way more than generally a backup quarterback would midseason because of Aaron's thumb. Now he's not getting the game reps and the shine that way, but he's getting a lot more work. And it probably is paying off.
No doubt.
I know there's a lot going up for the next 5 games, and he will get a shot at some point during it, but it was good to see again the decisiveness that you saw, especially into the Kansas City game, really there quickly. He was 1-2 and out, and get the ball to your playmakers, and damn it, get the ball to Christian Watson. That's just too much fun. Apparently,
that's your meal ticket, baby.
Wow,
that is the meal ticket right there. I will say, like, look, no, we're not sitting here crowning him. We're not like he's not like arrived or anything like that, because Philadelphia is playing a very specific style of defense for most of the time he's on the field, right? Although the Christian Watson play is great because they are in a one high look, and it's like they just completely take advantage of it with that run action. But it's, you know, I understand he's operating against a team that's like just keeping everything in front of them, blah, blah, blah. But man, the best throw he makes in that entire game is the one to Aaron Jones up the right sideline that Jones drops. I think Jones was surprised at how quickly it got up on him. But man, like, that's what I mean. Like, just identifying and ripping it and being decisive with the football. And God, I was so excited for the young man. I mean, like you just said, who knows? He'll undoubtedly figure in somewhere along the line here down the stretch. I completely understand Matt, you know, saying Aaron's going to play if he's healthy, like, or healthy enough, because God knows he's.
I'm glad you said it. Yep.
No, I mean, I totally get it. He's your starter. You've invested in him. You brought him back for a reason, and the man wants to play until they're mathematically eliminated, and then they'll have discussions, which probably means they'll just shut him down. But I totally get it. That's your guy. Yeah, like 100% he should play. Like, I don't understand the hand wringing.
Negs, you also can't walk into the locker room, and when we just for 10 minutes talked about the defense and wondering about their business-like decisions, and then go make a huge business one while there is still the glimmer of hope that a team that has Aaron Rodgers, you only ask for
you play Aaron Rodgers.
So like you play Aaron Rodgers, and I honestly don't think like the first second you're mathematically eliminated, you immediately go to Love right away. Like, I could see them doing the ceremonious one, because the Jets game in 17, they were already eliminated, correct?
Yeah, they were out of it.
Right? Like, I could see one game like that as well, and that's why also the bye week's going to help, because they're probably going to be eliminated by that time. You then play one Monday Night Football game against a bad Rams team.
Oh,
and then, hey, man, we go to Christmas, and probably Aaron probably starts, and then at some point hands it off to Jordan, and then you can say, thank you very much. Go enjoy the last 2 home games. We'll wave and play that way.
I'll bet.
Like, I could see that.
I could see that too, but I'll bet he's sat down after the bye week. That wouldn't surprise me at all. Like, they have him start in Chicago, and he gets through it.
That could be a good way to say goodbye too.
And then they put him on IR.
Well, the IR is also the other part of this, right? Like, and that's why it gives them it's the best of both worlds here with the additional injury, right? Not to add injury is never the right thing.
Right. Never.
It gives them the real opportunity to then go put him on IR that way. But for him to, I don't see necessarily the first exact moment they are eliminated from playoff contention, him not going out at least one more time, depending on where the situation is. If it wasn't the Bears this week, I also think there would be a little bit difference in his drive to play. You're going to hear a different kind of drive for him to play.
I totally agree. He wants that I still own you moment one last
1,000%
time before he gets shut down. Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. Which I'm for. Like, yes, own the fucking Bears. Yes. Own it. Lean into it. Do it.
Thank you.
I'm in.
And God willing, if it's the last time you end up seeing him as the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers and you beat the Chicago Bears, what better way to go off? If you come back next year, then welcome. We appreciate you.
Welcome back. Hey, we remember last time we saw you. You were beating up on the Bears. It was great.
We love that. Come on. It might be the best. It might be the best reaction he gets coming out to training camp in 2023 at that point. In the last 5 years.
I'm not joking, man. I'm not joking. You look at the offense as a whole, regardless of who the quarterback is. It was funny to me to watch Josh Myers in this game. I thought, here's a kid who I expected to take a bit of a step that I haven't really seen. And this is the first game where I thought, God, he really looks like he's taking a step back almost at times, in the sense of like not just being beat at the line at the point of attack, but just flat out missing blocks, and maybe some kind of misidentifications or what have you, something going on with the protection calls. But man, that was a rough game for Myers, and it's frustrating because the rest of the line I thought played pretty damn well. Albeit, Yash had a penalty or here or there, or whatever. And I know Elton got flagged for the most ridiculous holding call I've ever seen. But yeah, it's like frustrating when you have what's clearly a very talented line, but the center, the supposed glue, is kind of coming apart at key moments, and you can't have that.
Yeah, it seems like he's hitting a wall, and that's
really
that's a dangerous thing, because he played 7 games last year, and obviously that's the most that you play in a college season is 14 when he's going to the national championship game. But like, you shouldn't be hitting that at this point. And to the other point, everybody else played, I thought, one of their best games. I thought Elton Jenkins played his best game since coming back.
Agreed.
It was so good to watch. Dave was, again, you just barely saw him because he was as consistent
taking care of business
ever. Yep. John Runyon was as physical and being able to be kind of nasty like he wants to be. And for Josh to ascend where they kind of need him to be, their line was pretty predicated over 4 to 5 years off your guy Corey Linsley being the best in the league.
Yes,
and
exactly.
Not having that in the middle, I thought you were seeing a lot more in their shotgun run game too,
100%.
where you got to be able to lean in a little bit more and have the quarterback right up there identifying everything. Aaron jokes about that he loves the run game and wants to talk about everything. I love that answer that he gave on McAfee of it, but some of it's because he's got a second-year center where he's got to make sure, hey, little checks and balances. All right, Josh, we're lined up the right spot.
Yeah, checks and balances is so true.
And it's balances.
It's funny too, because like, I think that kid can do it because you can see it.
Totally.
There are plenty of cut-ups where you see him like getting to the second level and just taking guys out and like, yeah, let's go. But then you also see things like the very first drive of the game where he's letting interior instant pressure get up into Rodgers' grill, and then it results in a play that, where he throws the interception. That's all predicate. That's like that legit. People probably forget that interception only happens because Aaron is off the spot instantly because there's a dude right in his face, which he does a great job of avoiding, but then he throws the pick. It's like, you can't, man. That's the opening drive. How are you having miscommunication ID issues on the opening fucking 5 plays of the game? How does that happen?
And again, opening drives, I think if you go back into a cut up of when they've suffered a misplay on their opening drive that's killed them, that's why they've not been able to play from ahead all year long.
Yep.
And
that's part of it.
That's one of the big reasons why they haven't been able to win a lot of these games, because when you play from ahead, their style of play changes. It's just a fact.
Yes, big time. And that permeates the whole roster. And it's the lack of complementary football that we've talked about all year long. Yep. And it's just who this team is at this point. Like, there's nothing surprising about it.
You are what you are about now.
Oh, by now you are absolutely the most inconsistent team in football, most likely, because that's what's crazy is you can see the top end for this team is still really good. Like,
still really
scoring the touchdown that Rodgers throws to Aaron Jones is vintage Aaron Rodgers. Like, that's still insane.
Still there.
Hell, the touchdown to Cobb where he's like, there's 1, there's 2, and then I'm going to hit my backside. 3, perfect throw. I mean, that's one of the best throws he's made all year. Like, you can still see the engine works when everything kind of is firing at the right, everyone's doing their job, and there's still an ability with this team to be really fucking good. The problem is they are so inconsistent, and they shoot themselves in the foot on both sides of the ball with way too much consistency. And that's like the one part of this team that is consistent is these self-inflicted wounds. And like I said, at this point, they are who they are. You fast forward and, you look towards Sunday in this game against the Bears. This is a team they should beat. This is a team they should absolutely go in there, take care of business. But I have no faith that they will. I have every expectation that this game is going to be way more frustrating than it needs to be because this team will figure out a way to self-sabotage. Like, there's
it's a coin flip game. Yeah, it's a coin flip game, and that's a sobering reality of where you're at right now. You're gonna have to. I saw Schneidman say, Packers are gonna have to try if they're gonna want a top 5 pick after you wake up here on on Sunday because the Bears are bad, right? And especially without Justin Fields, Darnell Mooney, and Eddie Jackson, they're really
team they should
void
beat.
of talent. Totally is. And it's one that you could probably put away at some point pretty early. Just don't have a whole lot of confidence in doing that unless you see a vintage performance like that where it's downhill. You lead, you can
get that lead
utilize
early,
some play action, which you saw a lot of finally this past week, and then maybe build upon a little bit of that.
Think about this. This kind of hit me the other day. This Packers team has not won a game in regulation since week 3. Like, forget about like winning a football game. Their last 2 wins, it took overtime to get those victories.
And
they haven't
lot
won
of
a
overtime
game in regulation since week 3.
Man. And that was what, last play of the game, 2-point conversion. That was the Tampa game. Oh my God!
Came down to the end, 100%. Like, so this is my point. Like, this is a team that will figure out a way to make it a game for good or for evil. Like, there's no doubt.
Consistently inconsistent. That is the trademark, the absolute bumper sticker that you can put on the 2022 season and send it right on off. And luckily, there's a lot of time left to still be able to enjoy the rest of the NFL season, right? Like, you don't get your heart ripped out week 18. We're going to enjoy the heck out of this last 5 weeks.
I tell you what, though, it doesn't help when the NFL in its infinite wisdom puts things like, Steelers Colts on national television. Good Lord. Last night was hard. That was tough.
And can we flex out Monday Night Football of Packers and Rams? I mean, like, as much as I love Monday Night Football, never, because those are eyeballs, shame on me. Shame on me, because who doesn't want to see Lambeau Field in the middle of December?
Exactly.
At night,
come on,
right?
Now.
That's if there's ever a time to put 2 4-win teams right there. Sorry, Rams aren't winning a game by that time. That's the time, and that's the place.
Yep, 100%.
Play this game in Tuscaloosa. There'll be 800 people watching.
There'll be like nobody, big crickets, tumbleweeds. All right, well, that's another week of beer and ball in the books, Billy. Hope you have fun there at 97.3 The Game throughout the week, and definitely on Packers OT. Everybody should check that out. It's the best post-game show in the biz.
Oh, it's too kind. We're having a lot of fun. You can call us up right after with every single one of your. Nothing's off the table anymore, Nags. So people are calling in with their play designs. Run 5 yards at a 45-degree angle, and that would have worked.
You got to do it.
Nothing's off the table. Nothing's.
Hey, look. The NFL is just an extension of backyard football on Thanksgiving. Everybody knows this. So,
amen. It's a turkey bowl just in the middle of an 80,000-person stadium.
I love it. Oh, fantastic as always, Billy. Really appreciate it. I will talk to you next week.
Later, brother.